Hello everyone, and welcome back to the Division 2. This build was designed so you could engage multiple targets without overexposing yourself. This build was more made with solo players in mind, but you could use it in a group. The goals of this build were only accomplished because we're using 4 pieces of Negotiator's Dilemma. The 4 pieces of Negotiator's Dilemma that we're going to be using are the mask, backpack, holster, and gloves. The backpack is the most important piece, but before we get into that, let's talk about what this gear set actually does. For the 2 and 3 piece gear set bonuses, we have 15% critical hit chance and 20% critical hit damage. The 4 piece gear set bonus will give us access to the talent Hostile Negotiations. This will allow us to mark 3 enemies for up to 20 seconds. You can easily apply a mark by landing a critical hit on any of your targets. And now we're back to why this backpack is so important. Thanks to the backpack, we get a talent Critical Measures. Now this is going to make it to where any targets that are marked that we're not shooting will take 112% of the critical hit damage that we do to any other target. To put this in more simple terms, you're going to be eliminating multiple targets by landing critical hits on just one of them. As you could imagine, critical hits are very important to this build, which is why I decided to use a Seska chest piece. We want to be using a Seska chest piece because we get 8% critical hit chance for the 1-piece brand set bonus. Our goal with this build is to maximize critical hit chance and critical hit damage. Because we're already doing this, I thought it would be a good idea to go with the talent Obliterate. Obliterate is going to be responsible for giving us a weapon damage bonus of up to 20%. Obliterate will accomplish this by giving us a 1% weapon damage increase every time we land a critical hit. This will stack up to 20 times and it lasts for 10 seconds. Sure, this may not sound like a long time, but it doesn't matter because the Obliterate stacks are really easy to build up. We're going to want to throw in a little bit of damage amplification to make us hit harder, and that's why for our final piece of gear, we're going to be using the Fox's Prayer knee pads. The Fox's Prayer knee pads always come with 8% damage to targets out of cover rolled on them. But why is that important, and why not use the Contractor's Gloves instead? First, the damage amplification is going to greatly improve our DPS across all of our targets. Now on to the question about the Contractor's Gloves. The Contractor's Gloves only give us a damage amplification if the target has armor. This is for an equal damage value as what the Fox's Prayer gives us to targets out of cover. The damage we do to all of our targets is solely based on the target that we're actively shooting. Most of the time our targets are going to be out of cover, which would be the reason we are targeting them. We can more safely assume that targets will be out of cover than our targets will have armor. And with that conclusion, we can safely assume that we will be getting more DPS on more targets if we use damage to targets out of cover instead of damage to armor. Now that we have a full understanding of all the gear, how about we move on to the Emmeline's Guard? The Emmeline's Guard is the named version of the P90. If you're unaware of this, the P90 recently had an RPM buff, and now it only shoots at 100 rounds per minute slower than the Vector. This makes the P90 pretty strong in terms of burst DPS, but the real reason we want this one is for the talent Perfect Preservation. Perfect Preservation is going to give us 15% of our armor back over 5 seconds after we kill an enemy. This value is doubled if we kill an enemy with a headshot, giving us 30% of our armor back over 5 seconds. Perfect Preservation is going to keep us alive in those really tough circumstances, as it's adding to our survivability. Like all SMGs, the Emmeline's Guard is going to be limited by its range and its accuracy. We can make up for these shortcomings by using an assault rifle, more specifically, the exotic St. Elmo's engine. For anyone who doesn't know, this exotic assault rifle can drop anywhere you get loot. Please keep in mind that this has a 12% weapon damage bonus on it for my expertise. I did this before I decided not to use expertise so I can include everyone, even the people who have 0 expertise levels. Now with that out of the way, let's talk more about this gun and why it's important. After we land 100 shots, whether that be on an enemy or their weak points, we get 1 full magazine of shock ammo. The shock ammo will make it really easy to get marks on enemies as they won't be able to fire back at you. This is most advantageous whenever you already have enemies marked and one happens to just run out of cover, making it easy for you to stick them in place and lay on some heavy DPS so you can eliminate all 3 targets. The same concept applies to the firewall specialization for this build, but I prefer Gunner. Why don't we talk about that? You see, the dilemma here is with Gunner we get 10% armor on kill, 5% fire rate on kill, and we get access to the Banshee Pulse. But on the other hand, we have Firewall, which will make it to where all enemies within 5 meters will burn whenever our armor breaks. We get an underbarrel mod that'll give us 15% critical hit damage, and the Striker Shield, which will amplify our damage with enemies in front of our shield. I can't give any advice here, as this will be a reflection of your personal playstyle, but I've elected to go with Gunner, as I feel like the 10% armor on kill is vital for the build survivability. Speaking of the build, here's the full build overview. After a short moment, we will be diving into the stat review. And now for the stat review. We have 6 damage cores, 2 critical hit chance attributes, 5 critical hit damage attributes, and 3 critical hit damage mods. Now we have 60% critical hit chance, that's the cap, 176% critical hit damage, 0 damage to armor, 18% damage to targets out of cover, and 75% headshot damage. Thank you guys so much for watching. Make sure you like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video. And if you don't want to be the last one to know about the amazing builds that will be on this channel, make sure you turn on notifications. My Xbox clan, the bare minimums, is always happy to have more of you guys, and we have plenty of room. Stick around if you want to see more of what this build can do, but regardless of if you do or don't, I hope to see you guys in the next video. Bye-bye!
Agent down. Immediate medical assistance needed.